Your 2023 points champion in Knoxville, Chase Randall.
We are here with Chase Randall, 360 Knoxville Raceway champion. How does that sound?
I mean, it sounds better every time you say it. Ever since we finally wrapped up the championship, back on the final night of the season was a huge accomplishment for us, and it was a huge sigh of relief at the same time because it's everything we were working for, and we just finally achieved it, and it was just really cool to achieve that at such a early stage. I feel like, as we're just getting started at Knoxville, and it's just a lot of success early on was really cool.
You end up third in points your rookie year last season. Your expectations coming into this year had to be pretty high, but did you imagine you'd be a track champion in year two?
I mean, they were obviously extremely high. We only came with one goal, and that was to win the championship. So I feel like coming into the year, that was what we were not expecting, but that was what we were for sure, going for. And that was the only thing we were trying to achieve, is just winning that championship. That was at the top of our list this year. At the beginning, was to achieve a track championship in Knoxville, because it's so tough to do that. It was you have to put together so many weeks and be so consistent, and I feel like we really did a really good job with that, and we're able to pull it off.
Where does the fastest chicken nickname come from?
My nickname is the quickest chicken. Some announcers, I feel like, across the country like to change it up to the fastest chicken. I don't know where that started, but it's the quickest chicken, and that came from back in my quarter midget days when an announcer saw our mascot on the side of our car with the Bushes logo, and just came up with the quickest chicken nickname, and that stuck with me ever since then. And I love it, and it's just something that everyone can remember me by, and not many other people have that similarity.
Talk about the two different paint schemes you had this year with the Bushes Chicken scheme and the Iron Wolf scheme.
Our Bushes scheme was just our basic scheme that we've had for my whole career, I feel like, and we were lucky enough to have a nice sponsor, Will Ewing with Iron Wolf Ranch Distillery. He wants to sponsor us this year and kind of be a part and help grow their company. Family friends with him for a couple of years now, and he decided to jump on board and support us, and that was a huge blessing, and we were honored to have that opportunity to work with him and kind of showcase their company and drive their car all across the country.
What do you remember about season opener and finishing second?
Yeah, season opener I feel like was a super strong running for us, just kicking it right out of the gate. We went quick time. I'm pretty sure we went out late in qualifying that night and set a good lap down, and then finished well in the heat, and ultimately finished super well in the feature, just finished behind Reitzel. He's the best of the best in the 360 at Knoxville these past couple years. He won the Nationals this last year, and then finished second this year, really close. But he's one of those top guys that whenever he comes back to run 360s, it makes us step up our game, and that's where the top competitor is, and that's kind of the level that we have to be at. And I think it's really good for us whenever he does that, because we can kind of see where we stack up and how we can elevate ourselves to become even better.
May 20th was the second night we raced. You qualified fourth, but you brought out the other car. Do you swap cars or just the body?
We just swapped the body. So this is the same car that I ran all year long in the 360 and all across the country, so we just have to switch the bodies back and forth with it. That night was the first laps that I've led at Knoxville, and I definitely learned a lot about leading laps and what to kind of do and decide while you're out front, and what to think and the kind of mindset you have. I was out front in the right place I thought I should have been, but then Reitzel kind of went to the bottom and drove around me and kind of showed me where I should have been at the time, and that's kind of what helped me, I feel like, a lot going into later in the season, and ultimately be able to win a few weeks later was kind of the thoughts I had to have and the decisions I needed to make when I was in second and ultimately in the lead.
It's Memorial Day weekend, and there's 42 cars, and we have to go split qualifying. You end up qualifying 8th on that night, but you win your heat race. You start outside the 4th row in the feature, and then there's a restart that you really got going, and you battled with Garrett Williamson the last few laps.
That was one of the nights where we had a really strong car, and was able to make a good decision on the restart and get around some guys and find some clean air, and weren't kind of where we needed to be in the early part of the race to give ourselves the best shot at the end.
All right, the next weekend, the World of Outlaws are in town. So you started second in the main that night, and you get passed early by Aaron Reitzel.
Garrett was gone. I passed Reitzel for a lap or two, and then I followed a lap car in, and I think he got back around me. When I got by him the first time, or the only time really, I was pretty good. I ran him down quite a bit because he followed a lap car in, and kind of pushed up a little bit, and then I got around him, and then I ultimately did the same thing, and he got back around me. So it was kind of one of those where you didn't want to be that car following, you want to be the guy behind him in that kind of situation. And I feel like any race that I get on at Knoxville, I've learned a lot in traffic, and then that night really showed me how to maneuver around other cars and kind of finding the clean air when you're in traffic to give me that run to get around the guy.
June 17th, and you drive from 6th to get your first win that night, and the car starting in front of you, Garrett Williamson, Ryan Giles, Kelby Watt, Terry McCarl, Jamie Ball. So you're talking about learning to drive through traffic. Right here, you prove it the next week, and you go out and you get your first win. What do you remember about that race?
We had a really, really strong setup that night for how the track was, and was able to run down the top three. I feel like I was halfway. I was in third back quite a ways, and then ran the guys down and ultimately passed Garrett for the win and raced hard with him for a couple laps. And it was one of those opportunities that I saw, we had a really good shot to win, and was just driving my heart out to get that. And we got our first win at Knoxville, and it was, no feeling that I'll ever have anywhere else, because winning at Knoxville is one of the toughest things that you can do, and it's just so hard. And we finally got that for the first time. It was just an amazing feeling.
What's going through your emotions there?
A little bit of relief. Not relief, but it was just more of kind of finally, because I feel like we've been so fast. At the end of last year, we ran second a couple times last year, and then early on this year we ran second 3 or 4 times. And finally getting that opportunity to get the win was just a really fun moment, and kind of what I had to learn with myself on how to achieve that again in the future. I feel like I was in traffic a good bit this year all around. I feel like we were luckily every night we were solid in qualifying and the heat race, and had a lot of points going into the feature with the invert. So I was starting 6th, 7th, 8th a lot this year, just kind of how it worked out, and was able to move around and pass the cars that we needed to, and learned a lot what to adjust on the car to give me the best setup early on where I can maneuver, but then still be there at the end when we need to be a little tighter when the track slicked off.
All right, so we go to the next weekly shows, July 8th. You start 7th, and there's a restart with 12 laps to go, and you get by Sammy Swindell, and you're battling with Jamie Ball for second at one point there before you battle with Sammy. And then you have to go catch Davey Heskin to get the top spot after that. Really, really good race there. You're having to drive past some quality competition again.
Yeah, starting 7th that night was super tough. I feel like with the amount of competition that we had in the 360s every week this year was awesome, and I feel like it really pushed us to be the best that we could, and with so many good quality cars there each night. And starting 7th on that night was super tough. The track was really hard to pass just for how it was that night, and we were able to charge up through the field on a really strong field, and make some moves on a restart to get by 2 cars that were really tough. And then ultimately, Davey, when I got to second, Davey was gone, I feel like, in the car, and then I had to make a decision on kind of where to be, and then just ran him down to be on the bottom like I was, and ran it really hard, but kind of he was on the top and middle area, and just kind of found the line that he wasn't on, was able to drive up close to him, and then ultimately get by him for the win. It was awesome. And like I said a minute ago, it was one of those where you finally get that first win, and you kind of have that mindset going into the next week. That for the future, and it really changes kind of how you attack the race, and it really helped me, weeks moving on to kind of get more, ultimately more wins.
Kind of changes your focus a little bit. Instead of how do I win, now you know how to win, how to
Exactly.
repeat it. Yeah. All right, so the next week, there's $5,000 to win for the 360 shootout, and by lap 3, you pass 3 cars in one lap: Heskin, Selvage, and Tony Rost. The rest of the race, you're trying to reel in Garrett Williamson, and you finally catch him on that last lap with a pretty dramatic pass. Tell us about getting by all those guys so quickly, and then that battle with Garrett at the end.
Yeah, that week was super tough for the amount of cars that were there, and the track was super slick. I remember that was up on the fence, super close to the wall, and there was not really much bottom that weekend, so it was hard to pass. I feel like once the race got going, after everyone got strung out, and I got to third or second there, a couple laps in, and just spent the rest of the race trying to run down Garrett. He was gone, I feel like, for a lot of it, and then got to lap traffic, and then I would close in, and then make a mistake, and then he'd get back out, and then I close in again and try to go to the bottom or something like that underneath the lap car to get closer to him, and then I'd make a mistake again. And I did that 3 or 4 times, then saw a couple laps to go and found a little bit of something on the bottom of 1 and 2 in traffic when he was on the top, and was able to get close enough to him, and on the last lap made it stick another gain in 1 and 2, and throw a huge slider going into 3 for the win, because it was a really big race for the whole year. I feel like of the 360s, was getting to showcase that with a cool trophy that the Booster Club and Impact Science put together, and we won it really bad. So it was an awesome weekend for us to get that win. That was one of the highlights for this year for sure. I threw that slider probably as hard as I could to get around him. We've never talked about that, but we're in the pits and everything, we're still really good friends, and say hello to each other every time. Me and Garrett both race each other with the same amount of respect. We each race each other as hard as we can, and we'll never intentionally put a wheel against each other for anything.
Okay, July 22nd. You start in a third row starting spot for the feature, and you get to third pretty quickly. Later after that, you would have a race with Jamie Ball for second, and Reitzel won that night, yeah.
That was right before the All-Star weekend, and so Reitzel's coming back again to kind of get prepared for 360 Nationals, and we obviously we see that going into the night, so we got to be on the top of our game, because like I said before, he was the best of the best in the 360s this past couple years. So that's kind of the level that we had to be at, and I think we were a lot closer that night, and we were able to pass quite a few cars going into that feature to finish second. But it was another good night of learning for us. I feel like we learned a ton this year, progressing, and we were able to make ourselves really good going into the Nationals.
All-Star weekend, July 29th. You set fast time. Heat race, you came from 6th to win in the heat. You started second row. You get to third early, and just kind of maintain your spot to finish third on that night.
I remember racing the 410 that night, but because the track was really tough to pass and it was super slick, I feel like. So I think we passed a couple of cars that night, and weren't able to do much with that.
360 Nationals, so this is kind of the one disappointment I think for you all year. You go out and qualifying your 22nd in time trials, you're behind the 8-ball. What's going through your mind at that point?
That was a tough one for sure. Trying to set up for qualifying that event all year long. Each week we kind of had that mindset of, okay, this is kind of what are you going to feel like at the Nationals, and kind of get your mentality to kind of prepare you for that and treat it like the Nationals. So you kind of go out there and set 2 of your best laps that you can. I feel like I did do that night. It was just super late. The track kind of slowed down a little bit, and we weren't that good in qualifying session that night, unfortunately. But our race program was a lot better this year than it was in the previous, and we were able to finish second in a heat race, and then at the end charge set, I think 12th I started in the feature to finish third at the end was a huge run, and we passed a lot of good cars that night on a tricky track. So it was a good night, and leading into Saturday, we barely made the feature, I feel like, again. So we had a lot of work to do. I feel like this year's Nationals was super tough with the amount of good quality cars that were locked in. So there was no slouches. So each guy you were racing with was the best of the best, and we passed a lot of cars again to finish 7th. And it was just good showing for us, but it was a tough one to look at from the big picture with so much momentum going in. But then when you look at it with who we were racing with and everything that we're accomplishing, was something to be proud of. But we want better, and we'll achieve that in the future for sure.
Season championship night, you pretty much have this locked up. You really all you have to do is push off and get started that night. And you're sitting inside of row 2. You get to second fairly quick. Shortly after, there's a restart. You get by Cam Martin for the lead and drive off to the win. There's a restart late in the race, Jamie Ball tried to throw a slider on you, but you prevail. And a couple laps later, he tried it again. But it was a really good race with you and Jamie Ball that night, and then you close out the season with a win.
A good confidence booster and to kind of close out an awesome year for us. The previous wins I had at Knoxville, I got to the lead with like 1 or 2 to go, so I didn't really lead much. And that night I finally got to the lead early on, was able to experience what it's like out front and in lap traffic, by myself for the first time, I feel like. So it was a lot of learning that night and some decisions I made on the restart to kind of let Jamie be that close to me into one was something that I've seen, so I can kind of change up for next time. And then just some good experience that I had being out front, and then just an awesome race for us that we had. A great car, like I said. We really worked on our setup this year to kind of perfect that, and we were able to drive off to the win and kind of close out an awesome year.
You have your rookie season, and you have a really good solid year, but what are some things that you're able to take from the rookie season? Is it more of just like building a notebook kind of a year so that you can challenge for the championship this year? I guess, what are things that you learned last year that helped get you to this point this year?
I feel like there was quite a bit of kind of building that notebook, but we were on just a completely different package that we were on to start this year, honestly, towards the end. But that's just some fine tuning that we did throughout the year to kind of perfect that. But mainly last year was more of just kind of gaining that experience and kind of knowing what we needed to put in place to be at our best this year, and then going out and achieving that, and then finding that consistency that we had to achieve that each week was a really strong achievement that we had, and kind of just building that strong consistency was super key this year, and kind of what ultimately led to that championship. And it's just something that's really hard to do at Knoxville and that we're really proud of.
Tell us about the team, who all is on the team throughout the season.
So John Randall, my dad, is the crew chief and the main guy, crew chief you could say, on the car to make all the decisions on the setup and put a best piece out there. But Danny Dennis, our car chief, is the one who does all of the maintenance on the car, and I help him with that a lot throughout the weeks to help him and learn as much as I can. And Rocky Weber is kind of like our team supervisor, you could say, t-shirt salesman on the side, and that's our team we go up and down the road with, and we wouldn't do it with anybody else.
2023 is over. What's 2024 look like for you plan-wise at Knoxville Raceway next year?
So in 2024, I'm gonna be coming back full time to race for the TKS Motorsports team in the 410, and hopes we're achieving a championship at this time next year. And I feel like that's a really, really strong goal to go into the next year, but I feel like it's very capable of achieving for us as a team, because I feel like we have all of the right people over there on that side, and I'm right in the position I need to be to go out and achieve that. And it's something that I'm really striving for, to go into the next year and achieve that.